Very nice to see you all checking in, to read your comments. And it's funny, Jane says, nice to chant together. And I was just about to ask that. I just wondered, as I was chanting, I wonder how many of you actually just, listen, how many of you actually join in, how many of you, can't wait for it to be over. So, it's, some of you will have definitely heard me say before, if you don't like chanting, the great antidote for not liking chanting is to chant. And so far I have a pretty much, I think, 100% success rate for that cure. If you give yourself the opportunity to get into it, the rhythm, the sound, the feel, the resonance, it's a powerful practice, deceptively powerful actually. And a lot of it is doesn't really matter. You could be chanting blah blah blah, but then why would you? Why not chant something with kind of depth and meaning, something that's evocative, etc. But a lot of the power of it is actually just relaxing into the feel of the sound production and letting yourself just sense the way that the sound resonance fills out through the body. And then you notice afterwards, oh yeah, something's happened. Chant for 5 minutes, something's happened physiologically. It's like the cells have all kind of woken up and lined up in some way. Yeah. Right, exactly, Birla. I used to find the chanting so weird, says Birla, and after your retreat in June, I learned to love it. You're the perfect example of my 100% success rate. So I say that for others who, who might feel a little resistance to it. And, and understandably, and maybe you had some kind of religious education or something wherein it reminds you of something that felt, oppressive or something else. So I totally get that. If you feel weird about that, or if you feel like, hey, I don't need the whole extra baggage. I just came here to meditate. I do get it, and yet I feel like I'm on some kind of mission to re-enchant. It's an interesting word in French, to enchant. In English, to enchant sort of means to bewitch or something. But in England, to enchant means sort of to delight, to fall in love with, to be pleased by. So, chanting, isn't it? To enchant. I'd like to enchant you with chanting. All right. And then Savina says it's amusing to listen to you, which I'm not quite sure how to take that. But of course, ideally, chanting has a multitude of voices, and then any individual voice kind of melts into the whole, which is also a kind of symbolic reminder, right, to let one's own voice, one's own sense of self kind of soften into the wider context, which is also what we're doing in meditation. But with the technology being the way it is, we can't find an easy way to all chant together online, so you just get my dirgy voice, and please feel free to add your own to it. Okay. And okay, Francesca, that's nice to know you're brumeling along with the chanting. All right. So I'm trying to talk and read your comments at the same time, which is not ideal. All right. So here we are. In what some of you are noticing, even this week, I think. It's like you can notice the darkening of the world in the early morning, that feeling of autumn, at least those of us who are in the northern hemisphere, which is most of us. Yeah, I'm still reading your comments. So that's nice, Catherine. Catherine says, Something about you listening to you chanting at the beginning of the meditation helps to create a sacred space. Yes, that's very much what it is. That's the intention and actually the feeling behind it. So I'm yet to join in fully. Well, here's a little encouragement. Here's a little encouragement next time. And you don't have to start by joining fully. Just if you don't know the words, you don't want to concentrate on the words. You just want to very good. And in fact, maybe when we start meditation this morning, we'll just do some sort of just a few of those just like even 3 long ahs, or even it's such a cliche, isn't it? Meditators, and we can feel if we sit there going, it's like, what am I doing? I'm corresponding to that sort of sitcom cliche of meditation. But a bit of and a bit of kind of resonates deeply in the belly, and opens up the heart, and kind of that sort of humming sound resonates in the head center, and it's very much a way to kind of light up the 3 main energy centers. So cliche or not, good stuff. All right, so that sort of could be enough for today. I was going to talk, I've been talking about contradictions every morning, and I was going to say something about the contradiction of the way we have that sort of wishing in the tradition, right? May all beings be free, peaceful, happy. And on the other hand, on the one hand first, just to notice on the one hand, what a beautiful wish that is. May all beings, to actually sense it, that's the wish. May all beings live in peace, harmony, ease. May all beings, right? Just to feel how beautiful that wish is. And at the same time, we can't help but think, that's a little unlikely. Just how am I supposed to imagine a condition where actually all beings, I mean, even all humans, even all my family, sometimes seems like a stretch, right? Yes, but actually, yes, all my family, all those who live near and far, all those, that I have contact with, all those even that I disagree with, all those that I have, ideological or political differences with, all those I have personal grievances with, all beings in all places, in all the realms, in all the universes. May everyone, may all of us, in the widest and fullest sense possible, know ease, peace. It's beautiful and impossible. That's the contradiction. It's a beautiful and impossible wish. And we can get hung up sometimes on the impossibility of it. But please don't. The wish is beautiful. How realizable it is or not is just irrelevant, actually. Irrelevant, because in cultivating the wish, one is just sensing into the beauty of the wish. One's sensing into that's what a heart wants. And it's not even, that's what I want. No, it's actually fundamentally, what we're tapping into is an innate longing. An innate, essential, fundamental longing. That there be a condition of peace and harmony, depth and happiness, ease and contentment. Just those words, can you feel the way they might echo in your own heart? Just, that's what you want. What do you most want? Oh, I want this, I want that. No. What do you most fundamentally long for. If we trace the longings within us for whatever wherever they go, nothing wrong with, we want what we want, right? The heart wants what it wants, but what does it really want? Underneath the initial layers, pretty much universally, what I most want is peace, contentment, ease, freedom from my troubles, And so on the one hand, we're tapping into that. It's like we're reminding ourselves in that wish, reminding ourselves of the true heart's longing. And at the same time, we recognise that actually that what I want for myself, without trying to extend that, most naturally, that when we're in touch with that fundamental longing of heart, most naturally it extends. Because what actually the heart most essentially longs for isn't my peace, it's peace. We recognise that we live in a complete symbiosis with everything else. We live in kinship with all beings. We're utterly woven into the total fabric of the universe. So to make that wish, may all beings, it's a reminder of that which we most long for, wish for, those qualities. It's also a reminder of that complete interwovenness, interbeingness. So might we make that wish, as a way to keep reminding ourselves of our total belonging. And that also means others' total belonging to us, whether we agree with them or not. It's also a reminder, right, to keep dissolving our differences, which doesn't mean we ignore the political or ideological differences. It doesn't mean that we just that we sometimes can feel that if I don't stay in opposition to that person who I disagree with politically, or that person who's hurt me personally, that I'm somehow letting them off the hook in some way, or that I'm somehow condoning. If I'm not actively condemning, that I'd somehow be condoning. And actually, it's possible to completely extend the heart to those we disagree with, to completely extend our compassion, our well-wishing, our forgiveness, while still staying quite clearly in disagreement with them about what actually happened, or about what they think is the right thing, or whatever it is. That's a really important skill, right, for us to learn to disagree with the content of what somebody's saying or doing, while not being oppositional in the heart. We could say you can be oppositional in the view, right, in the mind, but no need to be oppositional in the heart. And that's a sort of purifying process. So we might just take as a sort of practice theme or a contemplation, who are you opposed to? Not in your mind, not in the view, not in the politics, but where is there an opposition in the heart? Who is outside of your heart? Who is outside of your heart? And what would it take to bring them in? Ram Dass famously used to keep a photograph of Donald Trump on his altar. This was during first Trump presidency, when Ram Dass was still alive. Was it him, or was it Donald Rumsfeld, or one? I don't know, some kind of U.S. politician to whom it was quite easy to feel oppositional. And so let's take Donald Trump for today as the avatar of all that it's easy to feel oppositional to. And if you don't feel oppositional to Donald Trump, but you feel oppositional to some other, political figure, just take them instead. what would it like to put a photograph of them on your altar? Not to venerate, but you bring to it. Well, it's the altar. It's the symbol of the true heart's longing. What would it take to bring those who we condemn and put outside of our hearts? And then what's the effect of that? Putting them outside of our heart. What would it take to bring them in? So there's some food for reflection a little this morning. Yeah. All right, friends. That's enough, I think. Let's sit. And as mentioned before, if we're going to sit, let's sit with just a few. We could just do 3, right? We'll take a deep breath and do 3 long you can just do if you like, but you might experiment with sensing into your belly, and then ooh in your chest, and then up in the head center. And really notice the effect before and during and after. And we just make the sound with that intention to kind of really relax into the sound, relax down through the central channel, to let the sound be kind of effortless. And then let's see how it is afterwards. And we're just using that sound as a kind of ramp into meditation. All right. Letting your attention gather and settle in the space where the sound previously was. In the aliveness of your cells and in the feeling of sitting. Letting your attention really enter into the expansiveness of the in-breath. And into the relaxation of the out-breath. And into that momentary still point before the next in-breath. Settling your attention in a very simple way. As if your attention actually most wants to just soften and settle and soak into being here. So that one's sense of presence is not effortful, but rather is just one of a kind of just softening the grip, letting sounds and thoughts and everything that's happening just take care of itself. While our attention kind of pools, deepens and spreads into this breathing belly. Just like this. When you notice any tension, relax. And the subtle tensions that can easily just build up, maybe around your eyes or in your jaw, or through your shoulders or in your hands. And the habitual tensions that we create and reinforce. When you notice that your attention's been lost in thought, don't worry about the content of the thought, and feel the tension that's there subtly behind it. And let that tension soften. So that again and again and again you're just entering into a gentle presence. Wakeful presence. Effortless presence. embodied presence. Here in the sitting, in the breathing. Before meditation, we spoke about the heart's true longing. And as you sit now, then, in this way where we're just orientated towards a simple, open, effortless sense of being present in just the experience of sitting and breathing, in just the coming and going of sounds and sensations and thoughts. Just to see what's the orientation, what's evoked by that idea that of the truest, or deepest, most fundamental longing of the heart, as being for peace. Just letting these words kind of echo in your heart and your consciousness as we sit here. peaceful. To be free from troubles. Free from anguish. Free from doubt and fear. Just taking these qualities just in as you're longing, really, for that condition in your own heart. Oh, that longing we have. May I be free from doubt and fear, anguish and anxiety. Free from troubles, inner and outer. May I really know how to rest. To put down my burdens. To be at home in each moment. To be comfortable in my skin. And to live in an inner climate of friendliness. To be at peace with my own mind. And just sensing how the verbalization of these heart wishes, just sensing how do they land. No need to get into details or plans for how that's going to happen, just sensing the heart's longing. For peace and harmony, for ease and contentment, for love and for rest. For true fulfillment. just allowing that heart quality in that way. Maybe the sense of that wish extending, right? A wish for that to be not just my life or reality, but a shared one. Maybe that seems quite natural. Maybe it seems a little crazy that we make up so much difference between self and other, seeing what we want for me and what we want for the world. In which case, maybe we can just allow that sense of wishing, what the heart's longing to spread out. Peace. Harmony. Ease and contentment. Of understanding and compassion. And the way we want those quite naturally to be the atmosphere of the world. In the way we need to exclude no one. In a way, maybe even as soon as we start to exclude someone, then those qualities are no longer the atmosphere of the world. So just without strategy or objection, just seeing if one can let the heart's wish for those qualities just spread out, as if the world is being gathered up in an atmosphere of peace and of harmony. Of ease and contentment, of forgiveness and fulfillment. Maybe in orientating like this, it's as if you can feel the atmosphere of your own heart's longing spreading throughout your consciousness and spreading throughout the world, and that actually being the same thing. Maybe in this moment it's as if the world is coming to peace. As if there's a kind of harmony in which everything happens. As if the fulfillment that we all long for is somehow already here. May all beings live in peace. May all beings live in harmony. May all beings be free from fear and danger and hurt. May all the beings in all the realms, in all the universes, may all of life be at peace. And in harmony. All right, friends. Nice to sit with you. Oh, good to incline the heart in that way. And, it's helpful to really make sense of what can seem almost formulaic, we might say, at the end of a practice period, or we might hear somebody else say, "Oh, may all beings," and it's good, beautiful, just to sense into the power of that, right? The power of that wishing, when we resolve the paradox or the contradiction for yes, but yes, but male beings, but yeah, but what about that? And that can never happen. Or what about that one? And then there's something that we actually create a kind of obstruction in the heart with that objection. It's not to lose sight of a kind of realistic perspective of all the troubles of the world. But on the one hand, it's that wishing that kind of points beyond the troubles, and also that in the wishing there's a way in which the world actually comes to peace in that moment. Of course, we can still find all kinds of objections to that, but is it possible to sense the way there is a dimension in which, in the sort of complete allowing of that well-wishing, there is a way in which the world comes to peace? All right. So let's see if we have a little time. Maybe there are some questions. As it's Friday, I'll just speak about dana a little more. I was going to say emphatically, but maybe it doesn't need to be emphatic. But just, hey, Sangha Life completely depends on your support for its existence, and to be able to do all this programming and run this quite sophisticated platform, actually, with the community forums and all the reminder emails and the automation of various things that I don't even understand the complexities of how it works. But Jake, who's my co-founder of Sangha Live and the CEO, she is really amazing. I mean, she's technically amazing. She's amazing in her dedication, and it's really an amazing testament to her. That's 10 years now that she's been working on this project, and giving a lot of time and care and skill and commitment, And then all the other, like George, who's here every day, right, technically hosting in the background, and also George puts a lot of time into scheduling and liaising with teachers and just getting a calendar together, often a year or more in advance. In fact, George and I were just in touch yesterday about something in September next year that we had to move the date for. It's like, that's a lot of forward planning with me, and then all the other roster of teachers, and then between the daily meditations and the days of practice and the Sunday Sangha and all of that, and then the longer form courses that are available. And then Ben and Garen and Caroline and Marnie and Faith, and as soon as I start listing names, I'm worried about the ones I might forget, right? But there's a lot of people giving a lot of good-hearted time and care and attention, and all of that is only possible if there's enough financial support. And as I've been saying this week, the financial support that we receive has been declining over the last few months. And hey, you personally, like I've said also this week, there's no pressure. I'm not trying to kind of say, come on, you should be donating. I don't know what your circumstances are. And I really want the piece to be heard, that if your circumstances are such that offering dana isn't possible for you right now, that's okay. Let all that's happening here, let it be a dana for you. It's an offering. So that if you can, if you find what's happening here helpful and beneficial, please drink it in, drink it in, drink it in. And maybe there'll be a moment when you feel moved to and able to make that offering in return. And maybe if you check in, now's that moment. Maybe you have the opportunity and the means. And even if you feel like the amount that you're offering is if it's a small amount, that's okay. Small amount is good. The offering of the heart is good. So all of that really just to thank you for the support that you may have offered this week, the support you might feel moved to offer today as it's the end of the week. To thank you for the way that supports me personally as the teacher this week, as well as supporting the platform. And then also, of course, supports anyone. I mean, very directly, when you make a dana offering, you're supporting everyone who can then keep coming and benefiting, this week and next week and ongoingly. So it's really a dana in that sense. It's like a way of us all taking care of each other. We're all taking care of each other. And that's very directly in line, right, with this wish that we would just, all being that sense of maybe all care for each other. Maybe that sense of the qualities of heart that we most value. It's like we want them to be shared. We want them to spread out. And, Dharma practice in many ways for practitioners like us is our orientation, or one of our orientations to how these values of wisdom and clarity and peace and sanity and compassion can spread out. So if your dana, if the dana you offer today can be an expression of that, then thank you. And when you make your dana offering, please connect with it like that, like it being a heart offering, it being an expression of that which you value, supporting your own practice and supporting those who teach and supporting the platform and then supporting this sort of field of practitioners that can carry on. And then it's like, sounds a bit grandiose, right? I'm supporting a world of wisdom and compassion. But like we say in the heart switch, we don't measure that. It's like, well, how much? I think I can offer 20 euros, and how much is that going to contribute to? No, don't measure it like that. This is like, just like we make that wish, may all beings live in peace and harmony. We don't try to measure how much of a difference is my wish going to make. That would diminish the wish, right? So don't measure how much of a difference you think your offering can make. Just see how much you were able to offer and wish to offer, and in the offering, just letting the goodness of that spread out. Yes. And the link, George, if he hasn't already put it in. Here it is. Thank you, George. All right, let's have a look at the questions. how to wish well for somebody whom with you have felt unsafe on multiple levels and somehow need to be under the same roof on a daily basis. Is it possible do not expect yourself to do it while you're in proximity with such a person? Yeah, so it depends on how unsafe you feel and on how much you need to be in proximity with that person, right? If you feel unsafe currently, I would really urge you to seek out conditions where you can make yourself as safe as possible. You put it in the past tense, somebody with whom you have felt unsafe. So, I don't know, right? I just want, if you actually feel physically unsafe in some way, please tell someone. And please seek out some very tangible kinds of support for you to not be exposed to any kind of physical danger from that person, or, other forms of danger or unsafety, whether that's emotional rather than physical, etc. Having said that, if it's that case where we've got historical difficult material with somebody, and somebody has been hurtful in quite strongly hurtful, and I felt unsafe, and the proximity to that person reminds me of that, right? The fear I felt, the tensing around them, the wanting to withdraw. If it's historical, is there some grounds for actually talking to the person? There may be, but there may not. Like I say, I don't know the situation here. So, on the one hand, one of the things that makes it not seem possible to just extend that sense of well-wishing towards that person is the residue, right, in your own body, in your own nervous system, the residue of tension and fear and unsafety. So you start with that, like caring for that. Oh, may I relax? May I really take care of this residue in my nervous system? Right? And just, if that's as far as you get, that's okay. You can sort of theoretically wish, in theory, I'd like that person to be in peace, and I'd also like that person to leave me in peace. But actually, there's the unsafety and the fear and the contraction and all of that happening here. I need to take care of that. So I would say, don't worry too much about that other person and trying to feel all nicely disposed towards them. No, let the well-wishing and the caretaking go towards your own sort of trauma residue, right? Or stored insecurity in your nervous system. Alex says, do we have to purify all our karma before enlightenment can happen? It really seems endless. So I'd like to hold a couple of those terms lightly, Alex, right? Purifying our karma and enlightenment. Both of those terms can be a little, they can mean different things to different people. But so my answer is rather imprecise, because I don't want to get into, in the short time we have, to try and get into unpacking those terms too much. But short answer, no. Short answer, no. No. Actually, I would say, so one, yeah, there can be a real awakening and coming to clarity in the midst of all kinds of unpurified karma, let's say, all kinds of contractions and habits, including quite unhealthy ones, etc. Actually, karma is more effectively purified once one knows something about a kind of an awake condition, and one's taking oneself less seriously and less personally, and one's less contracted around. So then those things can purify or burn off or be let go of much more easily. So on the one hand, keep on attending to karma. Please attend to karma, right? And to steering towards the wholesome and steering away from the unwholesome, and letting go of unhealthy behaviours or aggressive views or all those things. Right? And on the other hand, doing that in the territory as if each moment, every moment, is full of the possibility for a direct, awake relationship with life, and doesn't have to be out there at the end of some process of purifying karma. The end of the path is right here, because there is no elsewhere. There is no other moment, there is no other place. All right. I see that there's quite a lot of questions, and I'm sure there's some good stuff in there, and I'm aware that time is very short. So let me just see. Maria, I've spoken about that stuff elsewhere, so I won't get into it now. It's good stuff, but feel free to ask me again in another moment if you can't find it, where I've spoken a lot on sort of differentiating those terms, right? Mind, awareness, consciousness, attention, presence. Yeah. What are the days? There are 2 Saturdays a month. The first Saturday and the third Saturday of each month. There's what we have called a day of practice at Sangha Live, which is, I lead one of those each month usually, and then another teacher leads the other one. You can find out about them on the Sangha Live website. Well, Caroline's saying about feeling self-conscious while chanting. So that's one of the advantages of chanting here. You're chanting in the privacy of your own home. So I would say focus on the quality of relaxation, Caroline, and don't worry about the quality of sound, at least at first. Just the quality of letting it come. And you might just do that, and you can probably feel the constriction, right? I did a lot of theatre when I was younger. And when we did musical theatre, the director would often say to me, "Oh, Martin, please, you just move your lips, but no sound." Right? And so I developed also a lot of self-consciousness, or kind of, around my voice. And so you might find when you first start making sound, that sense, right, of being embarrassed about your voice or afraid that you're out of tune or whatever is there. So just work. Practice with just softening that. It doesn't matter what the sound is like. Just put all the attention on the relaxation and the intention. The intention towards presence and openness and resonance. Yeah. All right, friends. Yeah. And then Gwen's been having problems connecting. I'm not sure what that is, but maybe Circle has done some updates. Basically, it's usually about updating one's own equipment, or not equipment, updating the software. I mean, or updating, following the updates that are made by the platforms that we use. Right, because the actual connection is there. Like everybody, if it's here and everybody's here, then the thing has to be coming from the side of the person that's struggling to connect. And of course, that can happen. So yes, I appreciate you pointing it out. Right, and I'm sure it may be having an impact, but there's nothing we can do to prevent updates when they happen at Circle, for example, and there's nothing we can do to make individuals follow those upgrades in software. So, yes, I can appreciate that it's frustrating somehow when it's harder to connect, and I'm sure that's true, right? That some may struggle to connect and give up, but all we can do is kind of remind people to go through the basic things. Update the platform, use an appropriate browser rather than some of the ones that are less compatible, etc., etc. And in fact, I can see a little alert in the top of my screen saying "Finish update," which suggests I also need to do something to be better updated to the platform. All right, friends. Thank you for your practice and your presence today and all through the week. Thank you for your many kind messages to each other and the way that really, really contributes a lot to really, to this atmosphere of Sangha, connection, community, a shared field of practice. All right, here's wishing you well. Ula will be here next week leading daily meditations, and I'm happy to leave you in Ula's good hands for the continuity of that next week. Thank you. Take care.